punk ass people think they know me. You swear like you don't even exist. Now the case back, yes, that's the Coney. When I see my black folk, I get the fist. Got the keys to a hot track, show me. Circle back, last line was the fifth. Put your hands out, sucker, you own it. Throw you off like a candle, make a wish. See a man with a cane like Nessa. Come away all the pain with the festers. Now raise your homie, let's crush this. Nigga acting slow, 20 lashes. Got a red ribbon stitched on my jacket.
Hello everyone. This is my podcast. I'm here with KawaiiSteez today.
Ooh, dope.
He's a musician that I discovered through YouTube. I was researching jpegmafia and saw one of his clips come up, checked out his music, and I really fucked with it. And so I'm just going to be interviewing him a bit and just talking and just figuring some stuff out about his career and such. So to start, what is your purpose in making music?
Purpose. I would say, honestly, my main purpose is one, to keep me sane. I'm gonna be honest. Like, if I'm not making music or doing this as like a creative outlet, I would probably go insane just hitting the good old 9 to 5, coming home and all that. So it's just something I generally just like to do. Outside of that, I just want to, I guess, have my music connect with people who like stuff that are just a little different. I'm thinking out there, like there's people who are like me, whether like they're a kid or whatever, who like really likes to dive into music and like really hyperfixates on an artist. And I kind of want to be that artist for those type of people, like,
yeah.
So nothing too crazy big, but like just that.
I feel that. I'm pretty similar, to be honest. And yeah, I feel that about kind of fixating about artists, because I definitely have sort of like obsessive personality, so I'll get really like obsessed with a specific song or something or whatever. I feel like a lot of talented musicians are like that, where they get obsessed about certain music and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to, low key, because it's how you learn,
Literally.
Like all these artists I kind of think of them as like mentors in a way, because like the amount of times will listen to one song over and over again and just focus on one element just to understand what's going on. Like,
yep.
Yeah, so I kind of let someone have that experience with my music.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, of the stuff I've listened to, I gotta be honest, my favorite song is Backflip. Like that's my shit, bro. I love that song.
Not mad at it. Banger.
Awesome, bro. And for me personally, as a musician, I like it because, and honestly, I feel this way about all the stuff I've heard from you, but I like songs where there's no filler. Like it's every part of it is there and serving a purpose. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
that's how I felt about Backflip. So I just want to give you your flowers on that one. But
thanks, I appreciate you for that.
But yeah, man. So
yeah,
let me ask, because I know you post on your Instagram and different shorts and stuff that you're really into artists like JPEG and Tyler, and sort of more, I guess people would say experimental. I don't even like that word really, but what specifically draws you to those type of artists?
So I guess I'm gonna add a little more sauce to your question, a little more context. So I guess I was answer like what I do like about those artists is I like how they kind of I guess push the boundaries, or the way they create music is really like genre bending, and they kind of use different strong song structures you probably wouldn't hear like in a traditional hip hop song. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't as well. And they're not afraid to take risks. So that's something that's really like admirable, I think, which is why I like them. And it's just something, like if I listen to them, I'm probably gonna hear something fresh. So that's something I really appreciate, and just their work ethic and how they go about making music, I think is really cool. So that's kind of like really why I like artists like that. But funny enough, it's like I listen to so much stuff. Like I'm also into like some regular ass music. I'm also into like, you know, artists like Lil B or like Carly Rae Jepsen, Tori Moa, like Charlie XCX. Like I just listen to a lot of music. A lot of different genres as well. Vaporwave, future funk. So it's like, I don't know, I kind of take that approach of like mixing everything that I listen to in there. And like for social media, like I really do like those artists like JPegMafia, like Big Inspo. I really became like a big fan of them like the last few years. Tyler, since I was like younger. But I kind of focus in on those artists because I know people who like those artists will like my music. Like you, case in point. You know, like you found me from searching the JPegMafia stuff. So that stuff has been really helpful.
Yeah, no, because I know when I first set you up, you mentioned like because you were interested, like how'd you I discover you, and I was like, yeah, no, JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like with those artists and like what you were saying, like people get obsessed with them, so they anything having to do with them, they're on to. And so if you know kind of put their name somewhere in anything having to do with you, it's a good way to draw people in.
Yeah, that was the goal. Because it's kind of like, you know, an important thing for like coming up is kind of finding like, I guess, where you fit. And then since I kind of make like this niche type of music, I know I'm going to fit with artists who do something similar. You know what I mean? So it's easier for me to associate with that crowd and then let the algo do its thing.
Oh, yeah. And I did also want to mention, because I know you mentioned Lil B in there, I don't know if many people know about this. I feel like it's the type of thing people either really do know about or don't, but there's actually a song that JPEG produced for Lil B back in 2012 when he was...
Yeah, I Love You.
I Love You. And I discovered that.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Like, this is like...
Yeah.
And it's a great song.
Yeah, amazing song. And that's from my favorite Lil B project too, God's Father.
Oh, yeah.
I love that project. But yeah, it's wild because like, I didn't know... Like I only found out maybe a little over a year ago that JPEG was Devon Hendrix. So when I found that out, I was like, man, that's kind of crazy. Because like, I don't know, I'm not going to say like I really listened to him, but I remember when he was on Twitter, I was really active on Lil B and his producers. So like, I remember running across his music like mad long ago and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I never really went back to it.
Yeah,
but that's just crazy to me.
No, yeah, I saw something. It's like some dude on YouTube who reviewed one of his albums back in like 2011 or some shit, and all the comments are just filled with a ton of JPEG fans. Like, yo, this is crazy. Like the first song.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's so crazy. I really like from the Dev Hendrix era, like the summer songs, the Dreamcast summer songs.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That project's a banger. I love that project.
Yeah, that a lot of people say that's like the first vaporwave project.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's kind of how I heard about it because I know it's up for debate between that and like Chuck Pearson's. But I think Dreamcast is like 2008. So, but then there's some arguments I guess he made that like is derivative from the Avalanches. So like, I don't know. Music is weird, but
no, yeah.
Yeah, I love that project. It's so vaporwavy. Kind of mix with that like hip hop, lo-fi stuff. It's a lot different than that Chuck Pearson's project. If you've heard that project, I'm sure you have.
I gotta write that down. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's by One of Tricks Point Never.
Oh.
Nah, he's like a producer. I think he produced a soundtrack for Uncut Gems.
Okay, right.
And did some production on FM. But yeah, he made an album called like Chuck Pearson's Something. And it's a really old vaporwave album, but he didn't consider, you know how most people accidentally start a genre? Like I'm sure JPEG and this guy was not trying to make vaporwave. They were just made whatever they wanted to. So that's another one cited as the early one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So in terms of music for you, what got you into music? Like, was it, from a young age were you into it? Or have you always been musically minded, or is it something you discovered later on?
It was a young age. I started like making music. Well, I started writing about like just random things. Like I started probably writing raps since I was like 11. So I usually just write verses, but I'd probably rap about like food or like something silly. I just thought it was fun because I got into like hip hop around that time. So listening to like a lot of Slick Rick and like Tribe Called Quest and like Kanye because graduation dropped. So I was just writing, and then I started producing shortly after. I was probably like 13. I got like a FL version of FL Studio, definitely 100 billion% legal, of course. From someone, and I started toying around making beats. So, and there was like no tutorials back then. Like if I got lucky and found one, it was like on a someone filmed it on their phone and uploaded it to YouTube. You know, like it's like 2009, 10. We're speaking.
Man.
So I used to go on forums. Like there's this one forum called like War Beats and kind of practice, man. So yeah, so like I kind of started when I was young. Looking back at it as an adult, I probably just did it to like cope with like whatever I was going through, like just like my emotions, you know, like just whatever, boredom. I don't really go out a lot as a kid, so it's kind of like an escape to kind of dive into my imagination.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel like that's a lot of producer musicians low key. Like, yeah. So, you know, I know you mentioned you went to forums and watched YouTube videos. For me, my guy was, I don't know if you heard of busyworksbeats.
Oh yeah, Busy Works.
That man, I binge watched his videos, bro. I watch that shit so much, and he is like, to this day, I still look at his stuff and I feel like the way he taught beats and stuff was like an art, man. Like he really knew how to do it. Like that's something a lot of talented people, they might be able to make great music, but actually teaching it to someone, that's a whole nother thing. And you know, I gotta shout out those people on YouTube and such who are out here for the young beat makers, because they really make a difference, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I found Busy Works when I was in college. I was like, are there like, because I was just straight like raw dog into production, bro, for like from 2009 to like 17, no tutorials. And then I got curious one day. I was like, there has to be tutorials. And I saw a whole bunch, and I was like, damn. I was like, this would have been helpful, like growing up. But so, and he was one of them. He was one of them that I looked at for like a few tutorials on how to learn some things. So yeah, so shout out to BusyWorks and a lot of other folks out there too.
Yeah, and what, you know, kind of building on what you said, I do feel like, and I saw you made a post about this, and I totally agree. But when like, even let's say you feel like there's no tutorials out there, or you don't have a certain piece of equipment, but when you don't have access to certain things, it forces you to get really good with what you do have. And I feel like that's largely how people become really good musicians, is kind of not almost like having limits to what they have access to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I attribute like a big part of my skill in producing to not having those tutorials for such a long time. Like the way I really had to sit down in FL and really figure things out and like read the guide sometimes, or like read a forum and just like interpret my words, whatever they mean. Like when I first learned how to sample, I think I was in high school, and I just had to figure out like how to use Edison, like, and since I didn't really have like any cheat codes, like, oh, there's like an automatic like marker maker or whatever, like I had to really like sit there and listen to when the beat is like, you know, like looping or whatever, or like what parts are really good at looping. So I think even that transcended, like, helped me get a better understanding of rhythm and like stub counts and stuff like that. So like putting a lot of things together without a tutorial super helped me. I have a lot of music out there, but every project I had until the one I had in 2018, Kawaii Darko, is like 0 tutorials. I just threw something in there and figured it out. Granted, there's a lot of samples, but that's just what I knew how to do at that time.
No, that shit's awesome, man. I feel like a lot of great stuff is made that way, because it forces you to push the limits of whatever material or not material, but whatever software
Right.
you're using. And in a way, a lot of time it'll force people to almost use the software in a way that it wasn't intended to use.
Yeah.
And so it creates this.
I know exactly what you mean.
Creates this whole new thing. People are like, I didn't even know you could like make this shit. So
yeah, I agree. It's funny too because I was thinking about this the other day. I think like that's also the appeal of a lot of artists, like older work, where people really appreciate their old work, and some artists are like so confused. And I think it's because like it's like almost as raw as it can get. Like they didn't know how to do so many things, so they just made what they got, almost creating something new.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's like almost without any, just like almost like you were in the room, like listening to as they were making it or something like that.
Hey, yeah, it's like they have like the talent, maybe not the technical ability quite yet, but the talent like pushes you so hard. Then you see them get better, and it's great, of course. But I think that's why some of those old projects was like, wow, like damn, they really made this on
For real.
Yeah.
So I also do want to ask, because I know with some of your music, there's a bit of I don't want to say political edge, but it's definitely like social commentary and stuff. And I guess what role does that sort of element of music play in your art? Like sort of.
Right. I think it plays a pretty big role, especially nowadays. But also like, I don't know, it's kind of interesting because as I was recently listening to some of my old music and I was always kind of tapping into that without really knowing. But now I have like I'm older and I kind of understand things a lot better than I did back then. And of course, I'm still learning, but I think it has a big pivotal role in it because that's just stuff I actually like care about a lot. Like I'm a leftist, like socialist. So like I really care about like community and making sure everyone is taken care of. But I'm also like really big into making sure everyone is equitably taken care of and understanding intersectionalities and all the different things that make someone a person in the different ways that these systems oppress people. So like since I'm living that, I have a lot to say about it because that's I consume a lot of that type of content and engage with that or like with my peers. So, but I think now I'm more expressive about it and have a more accurate way of, I guess, aiming my thoughts at it because just generally growing up and unpacking some of that I went through, like, I'm a black guy in America. Like, I grew up in a really conservative town, so like there's a lot of internalized stuff I had to process. I dealt with a lot of racism growing up, so like and gaslit about it. Understanding my peers and maybe the things they've gone through and just hearing their stories and just being like, dang, like all this stuff sucks, and just continuing to hear that and then kind of understanding it from a systemic area makes me want to talk about it on my music a lot because I talk about it in real life. But since music, like it's like a super exaggerated version of me, I'm also like kind of lighthearted and goofy. So I try to make some of those bars like legit, right? But also a little funny, a little bit like on backflip, right? Can't shop at Target. I guess that made me a Marxist. Like that's just funny. But things are expensive. No one can afford things anymore. It's like.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that too about your music because I feel like there is definitely, like you said, like kind of like a lightheartedness to it or like a playfulness to like even like some of the funk elements you incorporate. Like it's but I've always liked music that sort of has those type of contrasts where you might be talking about something serious, but simultaneously you're kind of adding humor or whatever it is, and whether that's even intentional or that's just naturally how it is. I feel like that's something that can really create just unique and cool art.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not, but I don't know. I think hearing about the, Hey Ya by Outkast, hearing how like depressing that song actually is, it's so fun. I think that did something to my brain.
No,
But I also like,
I gotta be honest, I have no idea about that, like what that song is actually about. I gotta look into that.
yeah, it's about like, from my understanding, it's like infidelity. I think like divorce, like shitty relationships. Like it's just not like the message is really, like deep, but it's intentionally made to be, like a pop song, and the song is huge. Like, so I think understanding that, like, okay, like things don't need to be so serious. Right? Like, there's a place for that too. And some of my older music, especially, I did that. But I have music is such a fun outlet for me, especially like me liking funk and pop music. And I do like experimental stuff, but like as you noted, like you said, my music is fun. So like I try to make like experimental, like hip hop is kind of pop leaning too sometimes, but then adding that message. So it's just coming across other things I like because I like fun music for the most part.
Oh yeah, man. So one last question I do want to ask, just at least for the interview type portion. In terms of music in your life, are you seeing it as like is the goal to be a musician full time, or like what's your goal with that?
Yeah, my goal is definitely to be a musician full time. I kind of have an understanding of how long and how much that will take. I know it's a hard thing to do, but I definitely think it could be possible, especially like understanding that you really only need like 1,000 like diehard fans, really. Like if they buy like $100 worth of your merch, that's like, was it gross or net? Was it one of those things? That's like 100K. But I definitely want to do it in a way that's more manageable, where I can like, still make my music and have control and whatever that looks like. I also do want to like continue making my stuff and have like a culty type fan base, but I want to also write and produce for musicians, even if they're big. Like that would be really cool, like to get placements on bigger artists, because I do think it would be fun to at least have some production, like in the quote unquote like zeitgeist of music.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, yeah, man. I think with me personally, like I don't plan to do it full time. It's more of like a hobby for me, but I feel like if that's anyone's goal, like whatever it is, as I feel like it's, as long as the talent's there, like anyone who really wants it can achieve it.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think too, like on top of that, like there's a lot of conditions that in your life that needs to be like a prerequisite, like having your basic needs met.
Not to, I don't want to sound preachy there. Like obviously.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I
mean, like to an extent, personal drive.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, of course, there's some people who are privileged and others.
Of course. It's like a sliding scale, like that's why, we see some Nepo babies in the industry, but like if you're not talented, you can't be an industry plant. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some people's parents may know someone, or they may have like an amount of wealth, but they're still really talented. So it's like, you can't take away the talent from them. Was it a little easier? Probably, but like if they're talented, they're talented. And it's like a sliding scale. Someone may just be able to, have a job and, put time aside and slowly get to that. It's just different scales. So I do agree, because from what I've been hearing from a lot of bigger artists, it's consistency overall that made it a thing.
Yes.
Like that's like the main thing. So if you have the ability to be consistent, I do think and you're talented, or just work hard at it, I think I agree with you. But there's like so many moving parts to it.
Oh yeah.
But you just got to keep at it.
That's the number one thing. As I'm very young, but as I've gotten older, the biggest, I guess, piece of like wisdom, I guess I could call it, is consistency. Like in whatever facet of your life you're, trying to accomplish something, just consistency is like such a powerful thing. But So, in terms of the current sort of, situation in hip hop with, there's a lot of feuds going on. I don't even think we really need to get specific, but
Right.
what's your opinion on that type of stuff? Because like for me personally, I know a lot of people would be like, oh, people need to, be more positive or whatever. Like with me personally, I feel like that's sort of in a lot of ways what hip hop was built on. And I'm not gonna pretend like I grew up in the areas where hip hop originated, but just from researching it and such, I know that in a lot of older songs and such, it was built on this sort of like, yeah, as a way to express what people were going through and where they were, but also almost a way to like get things off people's chests if they were upset about something. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up during that time, but I did spend half my life in New York, and my family was around it when they started. Plus, just researching this, loving the culture, and also it being literally my culture, so understanding my history too. Yeah, doing that is like the whole battles and all that stuff is definitely a part of the culture. Hip hop is a competitive. It's both positive and competitive. It's so many things because it really is like it's like a political movement, revolution, getting your stuff off your chest. It's really, really politically charged. But then there's also the history of, like not only do people did dance battles, they also let you see whose rhymes are the best. It's like competitive, and it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to escalate. I know there's a history of it escalating to stuff where it gets like really dire and dangerous. Yeah. But I do think that was like so many other external factors that played into that you can't really just look at like the culture for that. But like the whole thing, like every artist, every rapper says they're the best, right? Like that's like a traditional thing in hip hop. Like you're supposed to do that, right? Like you're an exaggerated version of you. So you're literally supposed to do that. And it, from my understanding too, even goes back to some like African traditions of like celebrating. And even outside of that, there's always like competition, trying to prove yourself and be the best. You know what I mean? So like, I think hip hop isn't excluded from that. So when I see things like this, it's, like in a vacuum, it's really fun. I think it's really cool, as long as it stays pretty non-violent. And again, I only think that's because of the history that hip hop has. But, we see violence literally everywhere. I think it's just on a microscope. When it comes to black art, that's a conversation for another time. But so what is it?
No, I was just those are some really great points.
Yeah. So I think it's just I think it's cool, like seeing what's going on now is like exciting. Like I'm not really tapped into the mainstream too much. It is like the first time I have been. The records that's been coming around, I love the conversations about it. I just whatever's going on around it. It's just cool. It's like regardless of whatever side you're on, I think it's just a fun thing to see.
Yeah. And, I feel like you brought some really good points up there. And it kind of made me think, because just hearing what you were saying kind of made me think. I feel like part of, because, anyone who's going to watch this, see the date, they're going to know, we're talking about Kendrick and all that. And
right,
because, he's I don't want to say old school artist, but he definitely is more, kind of he sticks
like traditional.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like maybe he was almost sort of like trying to bring some of that energy to the present day music, and I don't know if people were ready for that because nowadays it's not the same in that regard. I feel like.
Yeah, like for the sport. Yes. Yeah, from my knowledge, yeah. I mean, and he's always been really competitive, right? Like, I remember when Control dropped, I was like, man, that verse was crazy. And even at that time, it was like, people really aren't doing this too much anymore. And, people have subliminals and all that, but that was like, pretty direct for today's standards. You know what I mean? Like I know people are like, "Oh, where's the name drop?" But it's like, come on, there's no big three, it's big me. Like we know what that's referring to. Like so I do think sometimes they might get some heat from this. The traditionalists are almost like, "Oh, you need the name drop or it's not real." Like I don't know. I think it's cool to do a name drop. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think you have to all the time if it's not direct. Like you clearly know who he's talking about.
I mean, I'd argue in some ways it's almost more like disrespectful, like not to say the name. Something like in certain
that's a good point.
situations, it's almost like, man, you're not even worthy of me drop. Like almost that one thing with I don't know if you saw that Drake like leak or whatever. I still don't even know if it's AI or not because like I hear some.
I think it's official, no? Oh, it's not confirmed yet.
I don't know, bro. I keep.
Oh wow.
Like I see people saying like, "Oh, this is like legit," but then Drake he did something where he reposted like he quoted something from a song, but then it showed a deep fake AI. So I was so.
Oh.
Honestly, nowadays it's
wow.
It's hard to know. Like
it really is hard to tell. I think there was an AI Kendrick verse going around too.
Yes, yeah,
right. So yeah,
it's crazy, man. Like it's hard to tell like what's real and what's not nowadays. Everything is. Like I feel like we're starting to enter that age that like people have been talking about for decades now.
Yeah, for real, it's impossible. I see some wild AI things. Yeah,
bro. The fact that I'm literally at the point where I'm hearing a song and I'm like, is this him or not? That's scary, bro. Like,
yeah, no, it is terrible. There's so many repercussions you don't even know yet,
bro. Yeah,
like yeah
it's definitely almost like another layer to hip hop, and I think that's another thing I want to say was I think hip hop in a lot of ways has like what kind of differentiates it from a lot of other genres and stuff is it has this sort of competitive nature to that. I mean not saying other genres don't have it, but I don't think any of them have it to the extent that hip hop does.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think that's cool too, because you'll see like artists always be super competitive with each other. Like if they're on a song together, like I gotta, I'm trying to write, or like the person who starts is I'm setting the tone. So like, can you, match that or whatever? Or I think it's just fun. It really helps push you because I used to rap with like a bunch of people in college, and they just pushed each other because like we don't have the weakest verse on the track. Oh yeah. But it pushes us as an artist, but it wasn't like no bad blood. Like even if you did, like
exactly.
I don't know, like it's just I don't know. I'm also a producer too, so it's funny. I'm gonna make a video on this like on YouTube one day. But I have like my rapper brain and my producer brain. So like if I produce a song and like the person on the verse like does better than me, I'm not too mad at it. Like my rapper brain is, but I'm also a producer. So like you did good on the song because I know my verse was fire and I did the verse first. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I set the standard. So if you match that or do better, then my producer self is happy because now we have a great song. You get what I'm saying?
That's actually another thing I did want to ask was, do you see, I mean, I don't know if you can make a blanket statement in this way, but do you see yourself as like producer first or rapper first?
I used to take both real serious, but I would say producer first. More so because like even like especially this time day and age, like not only do I make hip hop, like I'm older, it's like 2 years ago, like was it a year? I don't remember. Time is whatever. Where I'm doing like guitar stuff. So like I make music on my guitar too. That's more like rock themed or like diving into that more or electronic. Like I'm always doing more with the production end than I am with the rapping end, I guess. But I also take rapping real serious because that's why like I am as good as I am and I'm continuing to improve.
Yeah, and that.
Yeah,
I feel like that's. I forgot exactly who said this, but I was listening to some artist interview and he was talking about how if someone's, like they produce their own music as a rapper, in a lot of ways it is sort of like this superpower because, and I'd say also even if like you're sort of like a duo who's super, closely invested with your producer, and kind of works with them a lot. It's, there's a way where you can really create beats and stuff that are super, like molded to fit that artist.
Yeah, I agree, and I that's why I'm like always like, I love collaborating. I love doing stuff on other folks' beats too. But like, that's why when I'm doing like my focus stuff, I really cater it towards what I'm doing, so I understand the direction, and like everything is made like really specific for me. Or if I'm thinking about or if there's a feature on there, it's because I thought of that person. You know what I mean? So like, I guess even going back to the rapper and producer brain, like I'm more concerned with making a really good track. But I know I'm not gonna fuck up my verse. Like, I want to set a bar for the person to meet. At the very least. Yeah. If they meet or exceed it, then I'm happy because now I have a good song. Because I'm thinking from like a songwriter's perspective, and some people may try to tap my rapper card for that, but whatever.
Do you listen to Freddie Gibbs?
Yeah.
He's an interesting artist because the way he raps, to me, he raps as like kind of like what I feel like a producer would rap, like in terms of his flow. So like anyone who like is into Freddie Gibbs knows what I'm talking about. How his flow, like to me, it's like possibly my favorite flow of like, at least with a lot of the modern rappers out. But he's always interested me because from what I understand, he doesn't make beats, but he raps in such a like percussive way. It's like crazy.
Yeah, that's why I like him too. It's funny because like where's he from? Do you know?
Yeah, he's from like a really weird place. Like it's like a place where
he's from Gary, Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Midwest. Yeah. It's kind of related. When I was younger, it's funny. I'm putting a video literally like today, like on TikTok. But I really was into Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, and they were like the first group I really like hyperfixated on and really wanted to rap like, and they kind of do that too. So like seeing Freddie kind of be like use that triplet percussive flow in his own way was so dope to me when I first heard him. Because in order to like do that, and I'm not sure like where his inspirations are, but like I kind of flow in a way where I'm flowing really specific to the beat in specific pockets. It is percussive, and I think Freddie does a great job at that. So that's why I like Freddie too. I love Freddie's flow. I think it's someone who does that triplet flow like in a really good way. That's not like super repetitive. Can really expand on it and be, it's like really understanding that type of flow. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, but tying into that, like I feel like even like with my own music, I think it can be tough to like sort of, at least for like my weirder sort of beats, it could be tough to find rappers who really, are interested in rapping over it, because it's like, kind of like the same thing where it's like if you're a producer, it's like a superpower where it's like, oh, I could, custom this. But I honestly do feel like that's sort of shifting in a lot of ways, because I feel like it's almost becoming more like the norm to be at least somewhat like experimental in rap.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like, and I know you said you were young. I'm young, but I think I might be a little older than you.
I'm 20.
But 22. Okay, I'm 28. I just turned 28. So it's interesting you say that, because it's almost, there was a point in time, and I think it was actually around a little younger than you, where I started realizing underground music at the time was becoming more of the norm. So I think there's just like you said, like there's a shift to it, where now like underground is more of like a genre versus a state of being. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the same with like experimental, even though it is a genre, but it's like you said, it's becoming more normalized, where the generation younger than both of us probably won't see that as experimental. It's like Action Bronson, Joey Badass, and like even in like those artists were like underground, alternative, now they're just known, you know what I mean? And they're kind of like a standard. So I think the experimental noise thing, because I feel like we have a lot of people who are now, you know, growing up on like the Death Grips, Charlie XCXs, you know, even JPEG, you know, it's like Danny Brown's, and I'm sure there's so many other artists that I'm missing that people know, and I think a big part of that's the internet. So people are just incorporating that to where now it's just like the zeitgeist in a way. And I think hyperpop was very much a testament to that. Hyperpop is huge.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that because I was actually just watching a Danny Brown interview, and he was talking about how like all he listens to is 100 gex now, and I was like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
And you could even hear that in the collab album with JPEG. It's like there's like elements of that, like hyper pop, I feel like.
Yeah, very hyper pop. Some people were saying Daria core.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much like that. Yeah. And that's another thing too I like about even JPEG's production. I know I always joked on not being the JPEG Mafia allegations, but I think one thing I really resonate with him, because I became a really big fan when LP dropped, but and I liked him when Cornballs dropped. But before then, I always listened to him. I was like, oh, this is cool. But when LP dropped, I really did like a deep dive on understanding him, and then I really gained like a bigger appreciation for his music, especially because I know he likes pop music. Like my influences have a lot of crossover with his, so like I just really appreciate how he puts things together. And even like the Scaring the Hose album, like, oh, that's crazy. It's like electronic, you know, hyper pop, darkcore. I feel like there's even like some K-pop elements in it, you know? Yeah. So I think the way he genre bends is really inspiring for me. And it's more encouraging for me. I think one thing I can attest, the biggest thing I can attest to him is like, he was a big encouraging factor for me to keep going. Cause I know he started when he was older. And he makes a lot of weird stuff. And in a way, his music is paving the way for mine to be more accessible. Because I always ran into my music not being as accessible. But now, you know, it's almost like a baton passing in a way, you know, that everyone does to some degree.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Yeah. And, you know, I could talk about that dude for like hours, like pause, but like, bro.
Yeah.
That man, talented, like crazy talented.
Yeah, super talented. It's insane.
Yeah. And you know, to sort of tie on to all the things you're saying, I feel like almost, I don't want to say like the sole factor in that, but a huge, almost, you know, I guess honestly, probably the main reason is because, you know, that we're seeing all these different genres mix and experimental music is becoming more normalized is because of the internet. Because,
yeah,
you know, the internet is like such a, you know, well, as damaging as it can be, it's also got the power of unification because, you know, different, you know, anyone can talk to anyone basically.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I got most of my people listen to my music from the internet. People have a lot like in 3D over here too, but yeah, I mean, I think the internet's really only damaging because you know, like big corporations like using our data and all that stuff, like whatever. But yeah, no, the internet is great, and I even going back to what I was saying about like the seeing those underground artists become mainstream or quote unquote mainstream, it's because of the internet. Like, it's funny because when you get out the internet bubble, like these genres still really aren't that big. Like,
yeah.
Like you see like an ounce of experimentation hit like the zeitgeist like top 40. You know what I mean? Like people who just don't really engage that much, and I think that's fine. But that's that break outside of that, it makes you realize how small this niche is, but how much it still has grown. Like there's a video I made that I'm gonna drop that was talking about that, and like sometimes like as artists, especially in this niche that does like experimental stuff, you know, it's becoming more accessible, and we're seeing more artists, you know, blow up and have pretty nice sizable fan bases with it. It's still such like a niche thing that is still growing. So it's like when you're making the art and you have people resonating with it, like especially in this genre, I think looking at your numbers almost doesn't even mean anything, because Mad Villainy, you're familiar with Mad Villainy, right?
Yeah.
that's like a monumental piece of music in like the alternative hip hop scene. So much so that it's like mainstream, you know, like popular artists now mess with that album. That album only just hit gold after like 20 years, you know, like there's songs that came out or albums that came out last year that are more than gold, you know, that went higher than gold. So it's like the relative size and understanding that is like, it's like twofold. It's like, wow, it's like a really cool, close, and like intimate thing where like you can really connect with other people who are into that genre, but then also understanding that it's still growing. And then even as artists and, you know, even you as a producer, you know, it's like, we're growing with that space. So even some of my success, like, it's because that space is growing. Now even you know, you say you make experimental music, and it's still harder to find rappers, but you're probably going to come across a lot more because that space is growing. You know what I mean?
It's already happening.
Yeah. Yeah. See, there you go. So
I've been making beats since I was like 12. So I've been doing it for a long time. But you know, I've been like trying to send rappers and stuff my beats for a while, and I like, even as young as I am, in real time, I felt that shift happen where it's like,
right,
sort of becoming more normalized. And I to kind of build on what you were saying too, I feel like with the internet, it's so easy to almost get like super, what's the word, like trapped in your own thing, that you lose sight of like the relative scale of how, you know, like
right,
like to me, like, because I'm so like into my, you know, the niche stuff, I'm like, oh, everyone in the world would see Mad Villainy and be like, oh, that's one of the best albums of all time. But then when I really think about it, like what you said, I'm like, oh no, most people probably don't even like give a shit.
Yeah, still people say who's mfdoom. Or they might know him to the extent of the rap stitches guitar thing that went viral on TikTok. If they're on TikTok, you know.
No, and it's crazy because like the level of like disparity where it's like people either don't know about him, or you're someone who's like, you know, like if you're a fan of him, he's the type of artist that like, I feel like there's no one who's like, I kind of like him. Like it's just like, oh, I fucking respect him so much. You know?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Even like if you're someone who doesn't listen to him a lot, his influence is like insane. Like it's
deep.
He's, you know, he's an amazing artist. But
yeah, seeing that in real time is crazy for me, to be honest.
Yeah, so when Mad Villainy dropped, how old were you?
That's 2004, so I was only 8, but I got into Doom around 2008, 2009. So I'm trying to remember what album dropped around there. It might have been Food. I don't remember, but he did drop an album there. I think it was the Adult Swim album. There we go.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I remember the Adult Swim album drop, and then like Born Like This, and then like JJ Doom. And around like the time when like Earl was coming up, like even Open Mike Eagle started becoming like popular, and some art like Chester Watson, like some of those type of artists that were really Doom inspired. I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like I feel like that was like the first wave I saw of like young people inspired by Doom. You could tell, you know.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, you know, wrapping up, I do want to ask you, do you have any tips, you know, tricks, anything for producers, musicians, any like, not even necessarily like, you know, anything big, but just something like that could, you know, help anyone who's trying to improve their craft?
Honestly, just study the artists that you like. Like, I wouldn't even necessarily worry about like studying what's popular. That stuff can help a little bit, but not really. You might not enjoy it. Just study the things you like and embrace all of the people who inspired you. People on the internet will try to like clown you for that and make you seem like it's cringe, but I don't understand it because all of their favorite artists are inspired and obsessed with their favorite artist. So like, just embrace that and study all of them as much as you can, and you'd be surprised what things you take from them, and it's okay. to take those favorite things from them, because your interpretation of their music is going to be different than someone else's interpretation, and maybe even their own. So I would just really say study up on the music you appreciate and really dive in and learning. And that goes for writing too. You know, a lot of the greats, they studied their favorite rappers. You know, like Nas studied a lot of Lick Rick. A lot of current artists now study Nas. You know, like doing that and making sure you're diverse in that is really helpful. So just study all the things you like. You become like a hodgepodge of all the artists you like. I like to say, like, we're all shitty artists, shitty versions of our favorite artists, and that's what makes you a good artist. You know. So.
Damn, that's accurate. No, and building onto that, because I 100% agree, and I feel like you know, honestly, at least for me, the best way I've found to study, you know, aside from learning the technicals and shit, like literally just listening closely to an artist. Like if you just put on an album and really like close your eyes and like, all right, what's actually going on here? Like like a whole new world of music will open up. Like you'll be like, damn, like I just heard this, you know, like random shaker in the background I've never even noticed. I've been listening to this for, you know, like shit like that. It's like, it's just those small details make all the difference, you know, especially for production.
That's a fact. That goes a long way. I'll never forget when I learned that you could just like silence out the song for like a fourth of a measure, and that creates so much tension and energy into like something you're changing, and you don't even perceive it. Like,
no,
you know,
those for me it was sidechain. When I first
sidechain.
When I first discovered sidechain, I was like, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been like ever since I started music. That I always liked what sidechain was on like a kick.
Yeah.
And
sidechain still. Recently, I've been really diving into actually understanding 3D space in a mix and in production. I kind of just did it all willy-nilly, but now I understand it, and that's been like a treat.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
I got look into that. But yeah, man. So tell everyone what new projects do you have coming out? Singles, you know, so outside of music, like.
Right. So okay, I do have an EP coming out in May. But my calendar's not updated in my room. It's like the second week of May. It's like the 15th or something. It's gonna be on a Wednesday. It's gonna be an EP, like a 5-song EP with some of the singles that's already been out and some new stuff. So it's gonna be like a first part to like another EP I'm gonna drop later this year. So just look out for that. I'm creating stuff on YouTube a lot more, so definitely tap into that. I'm just trying a whole bunch of random stuff, music related and not music related. So if you're trying to get parasocial, you know, holla at your boy. Outside of that, you know, expect some more music videos and obviously more content, and be on the lookout for some cassettes possibly. I'm diving into figuring out how to make some cassettes. So yeah. That's gonna be fun.
I don't know shit about that. I'm like,
but yeah, I put out like a video yesterday asking. I got some good leads, so I have some ideas. I just need to see how to execute it. I'm gonna try to do it myself and document it, and then I'll have physical media for people to buy, you know, if they want to support. So that'll be really dope. And then you know, I might throw some Easter eggs in there or something. So yeah, so there's just, I know it's a lot, but I'm just trying to do a lot. But when it comes to music, EP out May, everything else just, you know, just hop on the ride. Say you're here first. You're still early.
You heard it.
You're still early.
KawaiiSteez in the building. Thanks for doing the podcast, man.
Thanks, it was great being on
here. You a carbon copy, all in together like Castanami. Caught in the weather, bring back tsunami. Tossing their finger like umami. With a north throat like Yarami. And stay low key, I'm spotted, I scream. Two black phones like a peep in hot. When I speak in talk, I react so clean. like, do you really wanna go there? My pain so wide when you broke there. When I show up to the room, y'all go stare. Good day, tell me is a bro there? Like, yo, hold up, yo, stop it. While you looking at me like a prophet. Spread lies and fill up your pocket. Speak cap could have just bring profit. Though I'm broke, can't shop at Target. I guess that made me a Marxist. See your weak ass